Migration Insights of Sanjay Caldera. In today's episode, we are diving into the opportunities awaiting migrants in the beautiful state of Victoria. Whether you're a student who is about to graduate, a skilled professional currently working in Australia, or an offshore applicant, Victoria has a whole lot to offer. For this segment, we will also be discussing the key occupations that the state is focusing on inviting. So let's get started. Sanji, welcome for today's episode.
Welcome, Aisha. Welcome to the beautiful state of Victoria, as you said.
It's great to have you here, Sanji. So let's start with our first question, Sanji. Victoria is known for its vibrant cities, world-class education, and diverse culture. Could you share with us why Victoria is such a popular choice among migrants and what makes it such a great place to settle?
Aisha, whole of Australia is beautiful. From state to state, it has its beauty, it has its advantages. Maybe in this series we talk about New South Wales or Western Australia as we go along in the series to come. We'll
Yeah,
definitely talk about those beautiful states. But today we're talking about Victoria. I have lived in Victoria for the last 35 years. It is a beautiful state. We call it, Melbourne being the capital, we call it the food capital of the world, where all the food from all over the world comes here. And it's a sporting capital of the world too, having the Grand Prix, having the Australian Open, and having the grand final footy. Now, in addition to that, what is there for the migrants? As I said, multiculturalism. Then
mhm.
a great education system, a health system, which is, of course, common to Australia. And the state of Victoria, the capital being Melbourne, has been voted many times as the most livable city in the world.
And you call Melbourne home as well, am I right?
I call Melbourne home as well, but I also call Australia home as well.
Of course, Sanji. So let's move to our next question. One of the most important aspects for migrants is understanding what occupations are in demand. Could you tell us a bit about the key industries and occupations that Victoria is currently focusing on for skilled migration?
Yes, now this is for potential people who'd like to migrate to Australia, who like to migrate to Victorian state. So as we know that the migration system is also comprised of independent migration, employer nomination, and state government sponsorship for migration. And we'll talk a little bit about that today. And yes, the main thing being the health sector. Now, health sector for nurses and doctors and allied health services occupations, there is a very big demand. And across all IT occupations too, there is a demand, and then the education, teachers, lecturers, and so forth. With the migrants coming into Australia, we need to build new cities, we need to build new houses. So the construction industry also takes prominence in relation to their occupation from the purpose of migration.
All right. And focusing on people who are considering to move to Victoria, what are the primary visa options available? Of course, there's skilled migration, if you can elaborate a bit on that, and how do these pathways and other pathways lead to permanent residency?
As I said, migration to Australia mainly comprises of what you call general skill migration and employer-sponsored migration. I'm not touching on employer-sponsored migration today, but I'll talk a little bit about that. So employer-sponsored migration is where a potential migrant secures employment with a employer in Australia and goes through that pathway to get permanent residency. But general skill migration, we talk about through a point system, and that comprises of subclass 189 independent, subclass 190 state sponsored, subclass 491, which is regional sponsored, and so forth. So The subclass 190 is a direct permanent resident visa, and the obligations are, once you get your visa, to live and serve for Victoria for the next 2 years. And in the subclass 491 is what we call a regional visa, where it is not a permanent resident visa directly. However, it's a provisional visa that after 3 years of living in a regional area, that you can apply for permanent residency. So those are the two main subclass, the subclass 190 and the subclass 491, sponsored by the state government of Victoria.
All right. Thank you so much, Sanchi. That's actually very insightful, and I'm sure our listeners would love to know more, and we'll get in touch with you. But let me talk a little bit about the regional areas that you just spoke of. Obviously, Victoria isn't just about Melbourne, and there are many regional areas that offer incredible opportunities. So, can you shed some light on the benefits of settling in regional Victoria and how it can be advantageous for migrants?
As you know, Aisha, Australia is a very, very big country in land size and so forth. And there are main cities like Melbourne and Sydney and Brisbane and Perth and Adelaide and so forth. So people tend to more settle in those cities. But the country needs people in regional Australia. When I talk about regional Australia, we're not talking about the bush here or the desert. We're talking about regional cities. And there are a lot of advantages in living in regional Australia. One thing is for potential migrants who are, as I said, the 491, living in regional Australia, gives them opportunity for permanent residency, as well as even for employer sponsorship, as well as even getting the opportunity to apply for those visas. Now, what are the benefits? One of the benefits is that even when you're looking for employment, the competitiveness is less. So if you're applying for a job, less people apply for the job. So you have got a better chance. Cost of living certainly is lower than the big city. And it's a very friendly, warm environment where you get to know people and something very personal. But remember, education, health, they are the same. The same facilities will be available in regional Australia.
Of course. My next question would obviously be about the tips. So you've already spoken about how the regional areas of Victoria are like, and you've given us a bit of advice on the visa subclasses. But what about tips? So for our viewers who are currently considering Victoria as the next home, what advice would you give them when they are starting their migration journey or to make their migration journey more smoother and more successful?
I say that that it is not absolutely essential to go and seek the advice of a migration agent. It's when you have an illness, you may not want to go to the doctor. Maybe it's sorted out with a Panadol or something like that.
Yeah.
I would encourage migrants to at least have that initial discussion with a migration agent. There are people like myself who have been in the field and giving you those essential tips and making sure that all opportunities are explored as an experienced migration agent. So it's extremely important to get your documentation together, how you do your skill assessment correctly, how you show your work experience correctly, and how you lodge your expressions of interest. Then it is, I have to admit that I don't now get two clients who I would give the same solution. It's so different and it is almost tailor-made. And that's what the government has done. They want to make sure that they get the correct people at the correct time into the correct occupations. So as I said, you could do that on your own, but it's always a good idea to go and have a chat with a migration agent.
All right. Thank you so much for that advice, Anji. And speaking of advices and visiting a migration agent, we know that you're having an open day in Melbourne between the 2nd and the 5th of October. Can you tell us more about what people can expect out of this open day and how they can book an appointment with you?
Yes, look, with state government of Victoria opening their doors and almost, I have been advised that 900 applications, 900 invitations have been extended in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
So it's timely. So what I would do is on the between the 2nd and the 5th, I will have an sort of open door policy, beg your pardon. That there won't be any cost for to have a consultation with me between the 2nd and the 5th. But of course, understandably, it has to be by prior appointment. And I believe at the end of this interview, that information, how to book, how to contact, will be available on the screen.
Thank you so much, Sanji. This was really insightful, and I'm sure our viewers are absolutely loving this. Victoria is clearly a state full of opportunities for students and skilled migrants. For those watching, if Victoria sounds like a perfect place for you, be sure to explore your options and take the first step towards your new life. As Sanji said, he will be available in Melbourne for free consultations, booking only between the 2nd and 5th of October. I hope you get to book your appointments, and the details will be displayed after this appointment. So thank you so much for tuning in with us for this episode, and stay tuned for more. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you for having me. And all
Thanks,
the best
Sanji.
to our viewers. Keep safe and have a lovely day.
Thank you.